Welcome back to the On2 Podcast with Dre and E, everybody. What's going on, Dre?
It's good, E.
Chilling, man. Matter of fact, I'm not chilling. I'm fantastic.
Oh, yeah, here we go. Week number 2, fantastic.
It's hard building habits, but you got to start little by little, brick by brick, right?
True.
Little
Brick
by
at a
little,
time.
little by little.
I feel you.
A little makes a lot.
Yeah, dude.
Straight up.
Yeah, dude.
Happy Black History Month.
Happy Black History Month, brother. How you feeling?
I'm feeling a little neglected. Man.
Oh,
I'm feeling
shit.
like our month has been neglected. There's so many distractions this month to detour the attention away from everything that is not black.
That's very true.
You know what I'm saying?
Cupid's out here shooting his fucking arrows.
Hey, man. Language. Jeez.
I'm sorry. I get a little hitty with him.
Man, I'm angry too. Yeah, man, it's unfortunate, but I'm trying to bring the attention back to it. So
To the culture? Bring it back for the culture?
Well, just trying to reserve and preserve what little respect we get.
It's true.
I mean, damn.
The shortest month of the year.
The shortest month of the year.
Got President's Day.
You know, and then somebody tried to tell me, well, at least you got 29 days this year.
Got the leap year joke? Oh,
I was like,
damn.
I'm like, and we're still the only month that don't have 30. Like, even with the
true.
leap year, you still don't get 30 days.
It's true.
Only one, right?
Damn. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. So even with that,
That's
can't
a-
even get
That's a little foul.
no numbers.
That's foul.
You know, so
That's foul.
every week there's a distraction this month, man. You got Groundhog Day the first week.
Yup, that happened. This
Right.
week was
You got
Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day this week.
Next week, Monday is President's Day.
President's Day.
Then the end of the month, you said was Ash Wednesday.
And then Ash Wednesday is the last week of the month, right? So, but we got All-Star Weekend and the Super Bowl.
Super Bowl kind of is like, that's a teeter.
But that's
like
what I'm saying. Another distraction. Those
Another
are
distraction.
Two additional distractions,
Well, we
right?
can take All-Star Weekend as a Black Weekend.
Of course it is. They're the only ones that are representing. At least on the bottom of the ticker,
True.
like it says, celebrating Black History Month.
Yeah, that's
You know what
true.
I'm saying? So-
And they do stuff for the games, which is I respect.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure, man.
I'm with that.
Yeah.
I'm with that.
So people have been, or at least for Valentine's Day, they're like, Happy Valentine's Day. I was like, Don't wish me Happy Valentine's Day before you say Happy Black History Month.
What has been the response when you said that?
People have been, they pause. They're like, and they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So there's somewhat discomfort,
Yo,
but they're trying to
process it.
in
You
their
forgot it's
mind.
Black History Month.
Yeah, they don't. You know, it's for them. It's like, well, I didn't mean any disrespect. They don't know if they've disrespected you, or they should have done better. They don't
Yeah.
know where they should be
Yeah.
in that moment.
You got them on an island.
And I'm smiling.
Yeah, which doesn't make it better.
Right, but it's funny because I'm like, yeah, it is.
Yeah, it
Black
is.
History Month.
Yep.
You know, I mean, we can talk about it all year round, but
Yeah,
they designated this month ours.
We'll take it.
Right? So it's cool, and some people have been pretty cool about it. They've been very accepting, like, you know, to like, yeah, you know, you're right, but they don't know what to do with it because it's not really their responsibility.
True.
You know, so it's on us.
You upholding the culture, which is always great.
Yeah, I try. You know, I'm trying to at least keep some awareness around it.
I mean, you got to.
You know.
I mean, it's one of those things where if you don't, nobody will respect it. So
Or they'll just
forget
fade.
it. Yeah,
It'll fade, right?
Yeah. Because you get Dr. King's birthday, the last week, almost second to last week of January.
Yep.
Then we get February, and then
Nobody talked about that. Nothing. You know, it's a different
it's a different feel around it right now.
Well, right.
It's a different
Due to
feel.
the person in office, you know, he didn't do any
It's a different
speech, no
feel.
day of service.
It's just a different feel.
Nothing.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Yeah.
if leave it up to him, he would executive decision that thing right off the calendar.
True.
Yeah.
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 It's debatable. Yeah, it's debatable.
Shoot. You think that man ain't leaving office? You don't think he would be like, hey,
Hey,
executive decision?
Hey, listen, but y'all ain't want to roll with me on he not leaving office, so I'm gonna leave that alone.
Yeah.
We're just gonna let that sleeping dog do a lot. So just
Yeah.
it is what it is.
True.
But
All right, but so I know you've been keeping up with it because you've been laying down some posts all month long, man, and schooling everybody.
some, you know, I'm, like you said, bringing awareness,
spreading
awareness, dropping some knowledge. You know what I mean? So what I've been doing is every day I've been dropping talking about a specific around the theme of history from Africa.
Yeah.
And whether talking about kings, queens, dynasties, the things that just are our culture that have either been, for lack of a better word, whitewashed or just forgotten or stolen, stolen legacy that's been misinterpreted or not been
maybe never even taught.
That
because
part.
you've been sharing some stuff that I think is blowing everybody's mind, and I mean I'm trying to figure out where in the world did this man find this stuff.
I dig in my bag, man. Like because one thing it's just kind of like they're not going to teach you what you about you, and that's. It's terrible to say that, and the real part, it started because one of my friend's mothers had posted about a controversial topic that happened, I guess, here in New Haven, where school was putting on a play for the kids about Black History Month, and they had the black kids dressed up as slaves, and it was one of those like some parents are outraged. The position that this person took was kind of like it's representation because it's a historical thing, kind of like. Like everything can't be like, hey, everything ain't racist. Like, relax, guys. And she's a black woman, so it was kind of like her, like can't jump down everybody's throat for being what you call it. I'm like, yo, fam, like we were more than slaves.
Yeah.
Like,
so that's part of the issue, right? Is it's okay to talk about that if you're talking about the other stuff.
Correct.
If you're bringing balance to the conversation.
Correct. And it's the only part that I've ever heard everybody talk about is slavery. We get slavery, Dr. King. If you venture out on that ledge, maybe Malcolm X, and most people get scared when they go Malcolm X, Farrakhan, right. They kind of bring it back, and then you'll get a Maya Angelou or something like that, and then we'll just leave it alone. Maybe Rosa Parks.
The name brands.
Yeah, the name brands, and for me it was like the last couple of years I've gotten more into, you want to know your roots. And I always say this when I've had these conversations, I think you and I talked about it before, when I went to Montreal, a lady had told me, like, what are you? And I remember being like,
oh, you got one of those too, huh?
Yeah. She's like, yo, what are you? And I was like, I'm black. And she was like, hey, where you from?
Right.
And I was like, just dumbfounded. I was stumped.
Yeah.
So what are you talking about? She's like, where are you from? I'm like, from Queens, New York. And she's kind of like, no, like, what's your ethnicity? I'm like, I'm black. I don't get it. And she was like, nah, like, we're from Africa. Or are you from the West Indies? Like, where are you from? And I was kind of like,
yeah.
And I felt real small and stupid. Like I was like felt real ignorant.
Yeah, you feel almost like a man without a dock, boat without a dock.
Yeah, man without a home.
Yeah. Like,
and she explained to me that people in Montreal aren't first generation. I don't know what they call themselves, Montrealans, whatever it is, but they're from a country, and then they're also Canadian, and but they practice.
They're bringing a tradition.
They're bringing their culture from their roots to Montreal. So they speak their native tongue, and then they speak French, and then they speak English. So there's a sense of pride that they all have of their heritage. Mm-hmm. And I think from that point on, I had started making slow but incremental. Like, all right, let me figure out more about my heritage because I was, there's more than just slavery in Queens, New York. Like, in between that, there was a lot of stuff that happened before that and since then. And you start learning things, you're going, damn. Mm-hmm. All right, cool. So then, fast forward, just seeing that post from my friend's mom, I was just like, yo, clearly we missed something. You know what I mean? We missed a lot. And I know I didn't hear about any of these legends, kings, queens, dynasties, just places in Africa, that were pivotal to civilization, not even just the culture, the civilization. Mm-hmm. And I said, I'll just share little tidbits and facts and just see how it goes. And, you said something to me about it that was kind of like, oh, people paying attention. Like, I just kind of did it out of, like, nobody's going to talk about it, I'm going to talk about it, but I didn't know how that was going to be received. Yeah.
So what was the response from people as you began to post these educational excerpts?
So what I noticed is, depends on who it was. I see there was a lot of people that hit me on the side on the, off-air kind of deal, like they don't interact with the post, but they may see me and be like, yo, I didn't know that, or like, that's pretty dope. That's cool. You know, like same thing, like what made you get into African history? And it's like, I'm black, and I know I came from Africa, so I need to know about it because ain't nobody else teach me about it. And kind of like the like small thumb, like, yeah, good job, keep going. I may not support it outwardly, but I'm gonna support you behind the scenes kind of deal. And I was like, all right, cool, I can rock with that. And then the people would just go in the post and be like, you keep rocking, do what you know, do what you do. And I was like, all right, I can rock with that too.
Yeah. So what was the feeling of from the people that would give you sort of the silent curiosity and encouragement, like keep doing what you're doing, but they didn't feel comfortable saying that out loud?
Yeah.
Well, so I mean, would these be people that would be posting regularly, publicly on some of your stuff too? But they didn't want to acknowledge something like this, and what you think that was about, man?
Their social currency, how they're either interacting or they're doing their thing socially, so that they can't be as maybe upfront and boisterous about it. So everybody's got their little pockets.
Was it self-consciousness, you think?
I think it's yes. Yes.
But they weren't asking you questions out of curiosity about things. They were they saying like, you know, so can you tell me more about this on the side from a standpoint of just genuine curiosity?
Yeah.
They were okay.
Yeah. You get that and like, oh, I didn't know that. Like,
yeah.
You know, and I had a conversation with somebody and kind of like just understanding the history was also like for them was awesome too. Like, yo, that's pretty dope because I didn't know that. So
now they got something in their pocket.
Correct.
That they can be proud of.
You know, like, you know, what's that about? Or, you know, why do you think this thing was taught? So I was like, nah. Why would it be taught?
Yeah.
Because
it doesn't fit the narrative.
Correct. Right. And that narrative has to be upheld for certain paradigms of life.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I mean, that was the thing.
So do you have a favorite or one that was more popular amongst people than
I think the
Queens?
One? The Queens are always popular because with the women, they like to see that there were women in power that ran, you know, civilizations or tribes or parts of, you know, Africa at that time, which I get it.
Yeah, because the one I saw, I'm not on it too often, but the one that I liked was the woman that, there was an image of a woman sitting on someone from her tribe because she was going to see a king in Portugal.
Yep.
And he would not present her with a chair.
A stool, yeah.
A stool.
Yeah. Queen Hatshepsut.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's of the 18th dynasty. Yeah, she was the first. So her Queen Nzinga. I think she was hers and then Queen Nzinga, but she was the first. And she had mad power. But yeah, she was dope. I think she's one of my her and Queen Nzinga are one of my favorites. Mansa Musa is definitely one of my favorites. Yeah. Well, he's the wealthiest person in the world at that time. And the Moors. The Moors are definitely my favorite civilization / dynasty to talk about. Because most people don't realize the Moors ran and conquered Egypt. I'm not Egypt. Spain, Europe, and Greece.
Yeah.
700 years. 700 years.
Yeah.
So everything that most people think they got from civilization, or because, you know, people say Greeks started civilization. It was like, no, the Moors did. You know,
like the Romans. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But all that came from the Moors.
Yep.
And nobody acknowledges the Moors. But even with Europe, when Europe went through the Dark Ages, and they had that plague, it was the Moors who came back and brought them into civilization and got them out of basically being extinct. Yeah. But that's never told. Doesn't fit the narrative.
You know, and it's fascinating because I've been to Spain a couple times, and I visited the Alhambra, which is in Granada, south of Spain, and most people don't know that the southern part of Spain is heavily Muslim influence.
Correct.
Right, and these people are descendants of the Moors. Correct. Who came and civilized that
that region.
Right? And
the Almoravids.
It's one of the most breathtaking things you can experience. And you know, like you're saying, they pretty much brought cleanliness to European society because no one was taking baths back then.
No, like the dogs, your cattle, like everybody was in the same house. Was sleeping. They all slept together. Right. It's like, so it's crazy. Yeah. But that's not what you get told.
Yeah, and you don't get that if you don't travel.
And and if you don't start just picking apart history, like, okay, which what goes where, because then there's always a crack, and then you gotta find out that everything kind of goes back to Africa, and you find out, oh, okay, your historians and your religions and everything that you think was the norms came out of Africa, and it came from black people, and that's where it was like,
more society. Yeah, and so interestingly enough, even the word slave, right, comes from Slava.
Correct.
Because the Moors actually used to take these women with this blonde hair, right, from the Slovakian countries like Northern Europe, Eastern Europe, and they would actually put them in these indentured servitude positions, and so that's actually the root word of where slave comes from.
Yeah, right? And you know, like the running of the bulls in Spain, that symbolizes the kicking out, the running of the last Moor dynasty out of Spain. So the Queen Elizabeth I, Queen Elizabeth I.
So I should never be running with the bulls.
Nope. Because that's to symbolize them running out the last Moorish dynasty out of Europe and out of Spain, that region of control. So that's what the running of the bulls actually symbolizes. So that whole week is actually geared towards that, and that's what it's based upon. Is the last Moorish dynasty being thrown out of rule and kicked out of Spain.
I can't be running with the bulls. All right, you know what I'm saying?
But you wouldn't know that if you don't.
No, you wouldn't.
So that's kind of like, I was like, when it was even open my eyes, like, oh damn,
now that makes sense. So now it makes sense to me why they killed the bull at the end.
Correct. and you notice they wear white and red, and the bull's always black.
Dang. Arsenio never brought this one up. Talk about things that make you go,
Yeah. So that when I was like, damn, I didn't. Like, so that whole tradition around all that has everything to do with the Moors being pushed out of Spain. That last dynasty of the Moors being run out, and everything going back to European or, rule. Yeah. But that was Queen Elizabeth I that did that. So that gives you running the bulls.
Wow.
So
that's game. That is game.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I've been going with the post every day, and just giving game of, you're not only slaves. You were kings, you were queens. I think this week I'm gonna start hitting up with Benjamin Banneker and different people who are like the Freemasons. So Benjamin Banneker comes from a tribe that I forget the name of the tribe off the top of my head, but they were the ones who kind of created the celestial astronomy. They were the astronomers. And that taught the Greeks and Magellan and all those people. They came to Africa and learned astronomy from Africa, and Benjamin Banneker came from that tribe, who also helped and basically built Washington, D.C. and helped the Freemasons, but your George Washington gets all the credit for it. But if you look in even all the photos of what was being built back in that time, Banneker's there.
So it says Benjamin Banneker was largely self-educated mathematician, astronomer, of almanacs, clocks.
See if it shows. His descendant. He's a descendant of a certain tribe. I can't remember the name of it. Of Africa, that were the first astronomers. And the Greeks learned from them learned astronomy, and that's why he was so good, because DC is actually built in a certain way for spiritual reference. And there's like an eye corridor that has everything to do with spiritual power. So between the Washington Monument all the way to the avenue of the church, like the church avenue that they have in Washington D.C., like one block that has a bunch of churches on, like the whole street lines of churches. It's actually a spiritual corridor that Banneker was kind of like the architect behind, and obviously Washington got credit for it. Yep. But I'm gonna start next week. We're gonna start tapping into that.
Cool, man. Well, it's American history, right? So
world history.
Yeah.
Civilization history.
Definitely. So I hope we're gonna.
Well, you told me I wanted to stop at the end of February.
Yeah, and I was about to get into that and say, this needs to continue year round. You're giving people game. Why keep it to yourself? Don't be selfish, Drake.
I'm not being selfish.
Don't be selfish, Drake.
gotta start planning things out on my day, man. It's a little different. It's a little time, you know.
Hey,
putting that stuff together, but
it's all right.
I'll see how it goes. We'll see what the temperature is. I mean, if people want to see it, I'll keep doing it. If not, you know, I may just not do it every day. I may do it twice a week, 3 times a week. Who knows? Cool. But we'll go from there.
Yeah. You habit stacking with this.
Something like that.
Yeah, right?
Something like that.
We talked about habit stacking last time. And I was like, that's I think it's an important action item for people to remember. Is the art of habit stacking. And you said that was Keller Williams?
Not Keller Williams. It was the one rule. The one thing. The one thing was
the One Thing book?
Yeah.
That was out of the One Thing book.
Yep.
And he was talking about
habit stacking.
Habit stacking.
Doing one small thing, getting really good at it, and building on doing something else to create a new habit on top of what you already did.
Right.
You know, so
it's building momentum.
Yep. Building momentum to knock out your big goals, which we know is not always the easiest.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what you're saying, people being enlightened about different things about themselves that they didn't really either know or pay attention to. And I think that has a lot to do with stuff that you and I talked about before with certain things you would either do or didn't do because of your environment or if you didn't have access to things, you know. And
you were thinking about not doing or continuing with the post because either the responses or you just thought people would think of a certain way?
I thought people just wasn't engaging with them. So, you know, the way I look at it was like, I don't want to hear that black shit. Like,
who was saying that?
That was the way.
Was the feeling?
That was my feeling towards it.
That's what you were thinking. The energy was coming back towards you.
Yeah, because it's like, you know, who wants to hear about the Morris Dynasty? Who wants to hear about these things? And you know, it always gets funny, you know, when you talk about black love or just black things. People start wanting to go all lives matter or all this or just kind of
it makes them feel uncomfortable.
Correct.
And we're trying to figure out why.
I don't know.
But it seeps in. Obviously, we ingest that energy
because you feel it,
and for whatever we take that home, and now we're protecting everybody. We're protecting everybody else.
Correct.
But by doing that, we're suppressing our sense of pride.
Yeah, and that's what I've been on. Like, you know what? I'm proud to be black. Like, it's not a day away from wanting to be anything different. You know, we have different interests. Like, you know, we dance salsa, we are involved in different cultures, but at the end of the day, I'm still a black man. I'm never going to want to trade that in for anything else. And I think that does play a role in your psyche, like you're saying, because people do feel uncomfortable when you start doing so far one way, and some people may just feel like they're being left out. So I feel, you know, I was kind of like, maybe I should just cut it off for Black History Month, because then it's a perfect way to exit out of that.
And me, I'm the other way. I'm like,
you pushing.
I'm like, it's no more Black History Month.
It's all year round.
It's just American history, period.
All year round.
And this is the contributions that we've made.
Yeah. So I get it. So like, I've thought about it. You told me to keep going. A couple other people told me like, yo, don't stop, keep going. And it made me start thinking, like, even in the conversation I was having with somebody I'm really cool with, what you don't know, you don't have access to. So if you don't have access to certain things, doesn't give you a sense of self.
Right.
And like I said, when you and I were talking off air before about just the things you would have done had you had access to things, where would you be at in life had you known about those things earlier? Mm-hmm. You know, and you said something that I repeated back to somebody, basically like, I'm paraphrasing, was like, you can't try things coming from our culture a lot because
you don't have the freedom to be
you,
to be curious,
yeah,
and you don't have the luxury of experimentation.
Correct.
Depending on whatever situation that you come from, it could be just the pressure of trying to fit in, not being made fun of, because you don't have a strong support system culturally
or
that believes in something, or an environment,
or just the environment.
So access to information is something that was always limited.
Correct. And I think we don't talk enough about how much that affects Black and brown people, because and like kind of the conversation we were having around that, even around the information, is every decision you make has to count. Like, you don't have the ability to make a mistake.
Yeah.
You know, you playing for keeps.
Yeah.
So if you make the wrong mistake, that costs you time off your life. That costs you opportunity to put yourself in a stable position where, a lot of the kind of person we've always talked, we've experienced, or we've kind of, I think everybody competes with, and mentally, is that they're able to make mistakes. They're able to have those screw up years and be lost and do that,
because that's part of the growth.
And that's
part
that's
of the
life.
journey for
And that's
growth.
Yeah, and that's life. But coming from the majority of people we know, that's not our predicament. Like, every decision you make is a real life consequence that you really have to deal with, whether it be having kids early, not going to college, not being able to read and write, not Like, you have to play for keeps, so you can't.
Yeah. Everything is based on survival. All of the decisions that you make, are life and death situations.
Yes. And people don't really take that into consideration with dealing with people from our culture, because in the conversation I was having with my friend was, he would have loved to start a business, but he couldn't because his situation wouldn't allow him to be able to risk taking a loss. Because not every business does work.
And again, that's what, and back to the conversation that we had prior, was that he was taking a risk. I mean, first of all, he was taking a huge jump by wanting to do this, but then not having the capital in a collective, him having to take on all of the risk by himself, is something that strategically is probably one of the worst things that you can do.
Absolutely. So then you start going, okay, you're making safe bets. Let me get the job. Let me take care of this. Let me do the things that will give me some stability. But inside, and it's not what I really wanted to be doing.
No passion, and it doesn't help create generational wealth. You can't pass anything down.
And I think we don't talk about that, because you have to take risks. But if you don't have as we said in the last conversation, if you don't have anything on the side to help you, give you that buffer so that you can lose a little bit, because you're gonna take some losses. Like, you have to be willing to lose.
Yeah, and so it's about, again, how do you create an acceptance, a culture where the acceptance of failure is seen as a good thing,
or the acceptance of stepping out and trying something different. Like, that's a hard thing too. Because remember, you asked me who did I know that sold houses, and I was like, nobody. I only knew one entrepreneur, and she had a beauty salon, so it wasn't even in the same
You weren't doing hair.
No, I wasn't doing hair. Like, nah, I'm not doing hair at all. You know what I mean? And then, I know personally, in my own world, every time I thought I want to do this, or this seems interesting to me, it's never like, yo, go do that and go figure it out. And, what help do you need? It's always, that won't work,
but they can't tell you how, right?
Correct.
They can't tell you why, and that comes out of a sense of fear,
correct?
Right. So it's not as if, and it could be taken as if these people don't want to see you succeed, but they're actually being very risk averse, and they don't want to see you hurt
or lose,
because they're looking at what's the worst thing that could happen, because they can't imagine what the best thing that could happen is, because they've never seen it before.
Or just taking the time to let it grow to get to the best thing that happens. And I think that patience, if you're not afforded the ability to have the patience to go through take the L's, you're afraid, because then you're not playing loose, you're playing tight. You can't do that. Right. You end up like the Falcons. Right.
And Mamba mentality says you cannot play all tight. You gotta just shoot it. Gotta go.
And I think we don't have enough conversation about, one, the access, which is, now it's not the same where you can get on Google and just figure stuff out. You can YouTube, figure stuff out. You just got to put the effort in.
But even that, when you do that, you're still doing it by yourself.
Correct.
Right. And I think that gets back to the crux of the community that you have. How can you
create a new one?
Yeah. How can you deploy these people, or at least lean on them for resources that you don't have? Right. And are we sharing those desires?
Not really, because I think, even like, I can speak from my experiences going out into the real estate. Not everybody was like, oh, that's great doing it, because when I got my license, the market crashed. So not everybody was like, yo, go be a realtor. Everybody's like, did you see what the fuck just happened? Everybody lost they losing their houses. People are getting out the business. Why are you getting into the business, doing salsa. Like,
did you understand the market, like what had happened though?
No.
And I think so I think that almost was a blessing in itself. Yeah. Whereas most of entrepreneurs, when they fail or they choose to get into something, because they don't know much about it and they aren't experts, they don't see the structural things as to why they can't succeed. Yeah. But they also have the support system that says, sure, go out. Here's $10,000. Prototype it and let me know what happens. Like, that's something that we don't have access to.
Correct. Or they just have call my friend, call this person,
and they'll call somebody else, right? Having these conversations.
Yes.
And that goes back to networking. That's what your network is supposed to do for you. And that's relationships.
Correct. And we don't spend enough time cultivating those relationships or putting ourselves in the ability to do that. Because what's the first thing that, and let's be honest, when somebody that looks like us starts talking proper, can read a little bit, are you acting white? And it's a real thing. And it's like you're subliminally crushing that person because it's not building them up. Because, that may be the person that helps reach back. Right. You know what I mean? Like, the crabs in the bucket, man, mentality is real.
And it takes a lot of energy to absorb that type of energy when it comes at you, right? Because
especially when people that look like you,
right?
Because you're gonna face it from the other side too. Right. You're battling both sides,
right?
And people don't realize that. Like, I'm going to a new world that doesn't accept me, and I got to prove that I belong,
right?
But then I also have to prove to the world I come from, I'm no better than you, but I'm just choosing to do something different,
right?
And that ability to be strong within yourself is tough, and people, you're balancing the balance in that. Yeah. And nobody wants to be in the hood all day. Like, that's not fun.
Right.
But
and it's hard too because, and I was having a conversation with someone at work about the stress of language when it comes to African Americans in the workplace. Is because I was telling her, I was like, you have the luxury of not having to think about and translate language in your head before you speak in the office.
Code switching.
I said, a lot of times I speak slowly at work, if at all. People know me to be quiet. Yeah. Because usually when I talk, it's, all right, he's talking, let's listen.
Yeah.
Right? It's because if I were to be comfortable with you all, or if I didn't feel as if I would speak how I would usually speak around family, you guys would think that I hadn't, I just fell off the turnip truck. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so, and these are people that have known me for over 10 years, right? So even with those 10 years of working with these folks, if I was to show that part of myself to them right out the gate, that would already perpetuate a stereotype.
Correct.
And it would be hard to come back from that if you could at all.
If you could at all. And nobody talks about that. We don't talk about it amongst ourselves because you don't know who to have those dialogues with, and you're trying to navigate new worlds. Yeah. And like you said, you learn a different language.
And the pool isn't that deep, no, right? Oh man, I'll tell you about a comment that somebody told me offline, but not now. I don't think the people are ready for this one. But just remind me later. But
yeah, I had somebody tell me when I first started in the business. They said directly to me, "You're very articulate. Did you go to college?" I just kind of looked and I was like, "Wow!" Like,
so it's kind of a compliment, but it's also
it's like, whoa.
It's also like, okay,
yeah,
that's like with all due respect.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, with all due respect. And I was like, I remember just sat there and I looked and I was and I caught myself and I didn't say anything slick back, but it was like definitely one of those like, yeah, we don't all play basketball and rap. Like, it's okay. I know how to speak proper English.
I got one of those maybe 2 months ago.
It happens more often than people realize. It happens more often than people realize.
But again, I mean, I took it as a compliment because it's something that I really worked at. Again, it goes back to public speaking, being able, diction. I still work at it. Yeah. But this man, I was working with him on project. It's an outside contractor that I was utilizing to help me with a project. And he said, he asked me, "Were you an English major?"
English major.
Yeah. I didn't know where he was going with this.
Yep.
I'm like, nah, I wasn't an English major.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, okay. Because, when you send me emails, they're very well constructed, they're very concise, descriptive, blah, 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 blah. And, I don't see emails like this,
That's
I'm like, and I was like, wow, thank you.
Yeah.
I work hard on emails. Emails are very tiring. At the end of the day.
But I see some horrible emails too. Like I've seen people with master's degrees with, I'm like, you wrote that? like, how?
Right. But, and so that's also another element of presentation. Right? We were talking about public speaking, but also because most contact right now is through a medium of either computer or the cloud or email or internet. Yeah. And so you're sending a lot of things via email, text, and if you look like us, right? And if they haven't seen you before, and because most of the time I'm interacting with people that I haven't seen, and so that first impression is, let me make sure I'm clear. I spend time on emails and it's mentally draining.
Of course.
But you have to, if you practice that, again, that habit stacking of looking it over, thinking about how the person is going to receive it.
Correct.
That's important. That's going to help you see things from other people's perspective.
Yeah.
Right?
Know your audience.
Yeah.
You have to know your audience.
Or just know how you want to be received. Right? Just know how you want to be received. Make sure that you're taking the time to be very intentional about the type of image and work product that you want people to know you for.
Yeah.
I don't think people think that there's any reward at the end of the road for it.
What you mean?
Right? So it's the attitude, whereas I could do this all day, it don't mean I'm gonna get that promotion, or it doesn't. There's no payoff in it for me, so I'm gonna keep doing me. I'm gonna keep being me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, and I could see the discouragement in that. I get that.
Okay.
Because, all right, if you're getting just as far as you were constructing these emails and speaking, quote unquote proper English, as you were if you were to just be shooting whatever,
the block,
then that becomes discouraging.
Yeah.
Right? And so I guess that's where faith comes in, and hopefully you're building a network of people that believe in you and are willing to be a cosign and a mouthpiece for you later on.
Appreciate your work.
Yeah. And can actually sign off on it, like, hey, this, I know what he's about. So that's really what you're trying to strive for.
Something that you talked about last time we talked was setting the path for other people. Like when people see you, you have to give your best.
Yeah.
So that whoever's coming behind you. But I think we also need to be aware of the people behind us and giving them the encouragement to step forward and to step outside that box, because
we gotta reach back.
Because the other part that, as much as we may complain about, we don't access stuff, we don't, there's never help for us. We don't help ourselves out in pushing ourselves. Like, I usually get mad when I hear people talk about, they want to be like Hov, like Jay-Z, they want to be like 50, they want to be like, yo, those are one-on-ones. Those, they were made for them. They are who they're supposed to be. They're living their destiny, their purpose. You have to step out your comfort zone to do something different. Not everybody's gonna sell 100 kilos and then make a rap album.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, or whatever. Like, you may not be Nipsey, you're not gonna be a gangbanger and then be able to convert, because there's other skills that these men learned that translated over into a different world. That if you're not tuned into building those skills and stepping out of what you know, you have to be able to balance that. And I think we don't do a really good job of our culture promoting that. Of, it's okay to be smart. It's okay to learn math. It's okay to speak well. It's okay to get in public speaking. It's okay to get in sales. Mm-hmm. Learn engineering. Learn tech. Like, push those things. I had a conversation with somebody in my family, an elder in my family, and one of the younger ones was, they're finding themselves. So they're trying different things, and they look scatterbrained at 21, 22, 23. They look scatterbrained because they're just doing stuff.
Right.
But, the elder was kind of like just frustrated, like, yo, they just bouncing all over the place. I'm like, they're trying to figure it out. Don't judge them. Like, give them space because they have to find their way.
Right.
And we don't have that. We don't usually have that the intercessor person to be like, yo, chill, because this is the process. If you're a creative, or if you're somebody who's like, I don't fit into the normal box of society, I'm trying to figure my thing out here. The last thing you want is somebody you hold in a high regard trying to push you back in that box, or trying to kill those dreams. And I don't think people realize how much we do that. And I remember getting on my elder like, yo, this person has enough self-awareness to say, I don't belong in this certain construct. Mm-hmm. I need to create my construct. It may not be the best for you, mm-hmm. but they're figuring their thing out. And let them figure it out, because it's not an easy process.
Right.
And wherever they land, they're going to land, and, it's going to work itself out. But you have to encourage, mm-hmm. even through the uncomfortable part for you, or just the, like, I don't understand what the hell they doing. Like,
yeah, well, and a lot of that is because of the generation that they came up in, mm-hmm. right? And not being able to know how to help someone, that's a heavy burden too. Like, seeing so there's a variety of different elements in the story that you're telling, mm-hmm. is that there's this person that grew up in an era that really just had black people in positions of servitude, right? I mean, that's just been it. Mm-hmm. Like, since the beginning of time, you have always been in a position of servitude. You've never been a part of a capitalistic society that was involved in producing a service or good that people were purchasing. Okay. Right? And so when an elder is going to look at these young kids and they see the freedom, or at least the spirit of this child that thinks that they can have anything.
And be wild.
Right? And they're like, well, you can't do that. Are you crazy? Mm-hmm. Like, right? And because they've been conditioned to be so risk adverse, it's just opposed to everything that they know. The other part of it is that they can't help them get to where they're going because they've never been, and they don't understand it, right?
Or they set up the foundation to do it.
Right. So the most support that they can, and obviously the point that you're getting to, the most support that they can give is to say that, and I don't know if they even, I don't know many people, or if many people understand how significant just sharing with someone the honest truth about their path, about listening to what they want to do. Mm-hmm. So if someone's to just say, hey, I want to do this, that, and the third, and if you don't know what that is and you can't help them, the proper response is, listen, I love you. I want you to have a fruitful and successful life. I don't know anything about what you were just talking about, and unfortunately I don't have an infrastructure to help you, so I can't help you. I don't have any advice for you, which is challenging. I would imagine that has to be very challenging for someone to look at someone that they love and to say that I can't help you.
Agree. I think even taking it lower than that, or deeper than that, I would just say, like, even when I'm in them situations, because I think I've always been very supportive of anybody. You want to take a shot on you, I know how it feels to even have the thought in your head of, you know what, I'm gonna do me. Mm-hmm. Then to voice it and be like, I'm gonna step out in this wide open space and not know how this is gonna go, and overcome your insecurities and put yourself out there to do a thing. I'm just gonna say, yo, whatever you need, I may not have it, but I'll help you. Yeah. Or I'm gonna be your biggest supporter and cheerleader, because sometimes that's more important than giving me the infrastructure. Yeah. Because if I know that somebody's in my corner and got my back, like, yo, no matter what happens, you got this. Or just ear to listen, like, yo, what's the troubles? You know what I'm saying? Or how can we navigate it and work them things out?
It's hard to say it out loud, right? So, and I went through this actually myself because my my philosophy was, I'm not going to tell people what I want to do because I'm coming from a place where people crack on you if you tell them what you want to do,
where you want to be, yeah.
And especially if you do it or if you try to do it and you fail at it, they're like, oh, I thought you was about to be the whatever, right? Like so I developed this this defense mechanism. Whereas, you know what, I'm not going to tell people what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna show them what I'm doing, right? And they may ask, like, well, what are you doing? And my answer is always gonna be, I'll let you know, right?
Gotcha.
And so that was a defense mechanism for me, but it was also something that probably stunted my ability for success because I wasn't giving people enough information to help me achieve what I wanted to achieve because I was keeping it to myself.
Correct.
And instead of actually just spreading the word, like, hey, this is what I'm into, this is what I'm into, sharing what I was passionate about, I kept it to myself and tried to do the heavy lifting myself out of fear that if I shared that
out there, I'm gonna be killed,
and I don't succeed, people are gonna be like, hey, what happened to that thing you was working on?
Yeah, I mean, because that's a real thing. Nobody wants to lose, and you want to feel like a failure.
But I think it's a difference between losing and not having the support system of people that understand what it means to go out there and try something new, and to be able to pick you up, be like, hey, you know what? Tell me what happened. Let's figure out how to make sure to come back. Right? We don't have the luxury of that support system to fall back on, and that's why I was saying earlier, the acceptance of failure. That culture is what we haven't had.
Correct.
Right? Because the failure is somewhat celebrated in other cultures because it means you were trying something.
Correct.
And as you said before, all right, this is what we learned. Now let's go back to the lab, draw up something. Let's introduce this piece as part of the risk profile, and let's get back to it.
Yeah, and I think that's the issue where I think my thing that I've gotten really passionate about. Like, all right, cool. If I see somebody doing something, like one of my best friends is opening up a restaurant. Hopefully, it'll be open within the next month. I'm a supporter of him. And I've always been behind them, even where we've had our distance and communication and growing up. I don't want to say growing apart, but life happens. Everybody goes their ways. I've always been like, yo, just do you, because I know you can. You know what I mean? And other boys, same thing. But everybody's got to be each other's, supporter and cheerleader.
Yeah, right. Rising tide lifts all boats.
Correct. So, I'm never going to be the one to hate or shoot somebody down. It's like, yo, you making the shot, you taking the shot, shoot the shot. Part of our culture that's kind of like we got to get better at that because we'll support you when you're successful, but on the way up,
that's easy, right?
Yeah,
that's
on the way up, we, like you said, we may crack on you, we may, and like you said, you're sitting there in silence, dying, like feeling uncomfortable, not sure of yourself, you're lacking your confidence, you don't know what to do, and sometimes like how you even approached me about this, like, yo, let's just do this. Yeah. I wouldn't have done this on my own. So it makes it a little easier for you to go ahead and, all right, cool, because I've kind of adapted I've always been strong and stubborn in my life because my environment has dictated that towards me, and you grow a part of that. So I was always very like, you tell me no, I'm just going to do it now. I've always been that, like, tell me no, I'm doing it. I'm just going to do it to piss you off. Yeah, I may not even want to do it. But just because you told me no, I'm doing it. That's always been like my messed up thing because whatever. But now I got to that point where it's like, yo, I don't care about what you think about what I did do or didn't do right because I'm figuring it out. I'm going through my process. Yeah. So who gives a shit about your judgment?
Let's just change the way that we have the conversation. Is what is it that you succeeded in that you could
duplicate,
do that, or help somebody get to where they want to be since you've achieved so much success, because that is success.
But the thing is, people have to realize that you're not the only person. Some people only want all the success to themselves. You know what I'm saying? And it's a hard thing to crack that code of like, because you get the people that they get it and they want to keep and preserve it, thinking that if I give, I have less. And it's like, yo, you know what I mean? It's like, that's not real.
Well, that's the type of stuff that our government runs off of.
Of course.
The more that they give, the less that means for everybody else.
Correct.
Right.
And you don't usually do that. When you help somebody else be successful, you only make your success bigger. You know, and then
and that's a multiplier.
Correct.
And that's how you build, again, a network.
Correct.
Right.
And that's the point. I think we don't practice that. Right? Everything else around us does that.
And if you can't be used, you're useless.
Basically.
For real. So, be useful. Man.
Yeah.
Be useful. Add value.
You know, if you feel there's something that you want to do it. You know, because you never know what's gonna do for you and what you're gonna learn from it,
right?
And learn about yourself. Because like you know, there's a lot of things that I wanted to try that I just was like, that may not look right, or
because of when you say it may not look right, because of the external factors, or just because you didn't have the passion.
Bored. Some were external factors. Yeah. You know, some were just like, I don't have the passion to do that.
Okay.
Some was like, I'm gonna be in a different environment. It's very uncomfortable for me. You know, and I don't know how I didn't want to adjust in those periods of my life.
Yeah, especially by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, again, a lot of things that, I mean, we're still achieving a lot of firsts as a people, right? So most of the things that folks might be interested in, there's going to be a small pool of people that's going to be around that look like you, that's interested in doing it, have experience with it, or have the means to try it, or can afford to try it, you know, right? For a variety of different reasons.
Yeah. Golf was one of those things for me.
Golf?
Like I've been told to get on the golf course for at least 4 years now by different people close to me too. And there was always that like this discomfort of like same my environment.
But you grew up in the Tiger era when he was on and popping.
Yeah, but I never related to Tiger.
You didn't have to relate to him, but that was something we hadn't seen before. And
but once again, that didn't relate to me. It's like, all right, cool. I related that, like, once again.
He made it cool for me.
He didn't make it cool for me because I was like, where am I going to go to play golf?
So that's the crazy thing, too. but that, again, so now we go back to the access, right? Because I was like that. I was thinking about the same thing. So I played, so when Tiger Woods came out, people had been trying to get me to play golf before that, but again, I was sort of like, I don't see anybody else playing golf around here. Like, none of my friends play golf. I want to play things that I can play with other people, right? And golf wasn't one of those things. And it's an expensive sport. That startup cost is not cheap. Inexpensive.
Not cheap. We're talking about that with snowboarding too,
right? And so, but the thing is, so I got into golf in high school when Tiger Woods came out, obviously. So it was like, that was the flavor. Like, all right, boom, boom, boom. It's okay now.
Yeah.
And then when I went to school, when I went to Philly, I left my clubs home because I'm thinking, again, in my ignorance, golf courses in Philadelphia.
Ain't no golf courses in Philly.
Right. Unbeknownst to me,
a bunch of them.
You know, I was out. I remember, and I would have to go by myself. Like when I did end up bringing them back there, I had already lived in the city for 3 years before I brought them back with me, because I was trying to get some of my boys to play, to start picking it up. And because again, I've been getting the feedback from people that I know that were saying, you know, pick up the sport, pick up the sport. You're gonna need it. You're gonna need it. You're going to need it. And so I was out there, and again, I've never been a person that's been afraid to do things on my own. Yeah. Grew up an only child, so
you're forced to do that.
Yeah, you know, that was a natural state for me. And I remember one time I went out to Oak Lane, which is one of the golf courses in the city, and I was out there, you know, playing. And golf is one of those sports where if you are on a course and it's busy, you cannot go out there on your own. They will pair you with somebody else.
Really?
Yeah, you can't just like, I just want to pay for one. They be like, how many people you have? And like, just me. They say, okay, I think I got 2 people coming. You'll play with them.
Wow.
That's new, right? That's new to me. So
yeah.
now
You're
I'm playing
into a social situation.
I'm playing with strangers.
Yeah.
Chances are they don't look like me.
Of course.
And so, but it also exposed me to a different environment, whereas they're like, okay, he's playing golf.
Yeah.
And you're playing, and sometimes you get linked up with people. Most of the time, they've been pretty cool.
Yeah.
And you're in this environment that you're just looking around like, where is everybody else?
Mm-hmm.
And then it starts to click. Like, okay, now I see why people are saying, because this is where you meet people. You have about 4 hours with these people.
Yeah.
You're in a cart. Sometimes you're walking. You're sharing this experience, and we were talking about this, about networking, about how do you work the room, and how do you build relationships. It's about sharing an experience.
Correct.
So you're sharing this experience. So when you get out there, when you get off the course, you can then call them on stuff. And if you build and if by chance you hit it off, now you have somebody in your phone. You're like, hey, what you doing, man?
Yeah.
You trying to go
play
out for 9?
Yeah, want to play 9?
Right. And it happens that way.
Yeah, I played a couple times, and it's funny because, shout out to Craig Hazel. He's been somebody that's for like 3 years been on me, like, I gotta set the clubs for you, like let's just get out there. But usually spring summertime is also a busy time for me in my business, and I just never made the proper allotment of time to go do it. And then, then I also had the insecurities of...
You was busy.
Damn, yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
But, and I just didn't, I had that insecurity of, like, I don't, I feel like you fit in.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna wear my hat backwards. Like, that's me. But trying to adjust to the social norms of a different environment... Mm-hmm. But being authentic, different rules, and you got to be authentic. But also being authentic to yourself, where I can wear my hat forward. I don't have to be like that. But it's just you feeling like the environment's forcing you to be something different. That my initial, because of my ignorance, was like, nah.
You would just want to be a rebel.
Just cause.
Yeah.
Because I don't like rules. Like,
okay.
Don't tell me who I have to be, like, to make you comfortable. But it's like, no, that's just the norm here.
Right.
And it was a hard thing for me to break, because that was that rebellious thing in me of like, nah, I won't be around this. And when I played, I never had an issue. I was able to adjust and code switch and do all that kind of stuff. But it was like, all right, like, this is cool, and I got out of it, but not really tapping in.
Yeah.
And that was the thing.
And so, funny story before I forget. So that time that I went out, I was playing ahead of a group behind me. Mm-hmm. And the other thing about golf is you have to keep pace.
Yeah,
right.
I've heard about
it's
that.
It's not as relaxing as people make it out to be. Right. If you get on the wrong course on a busy day,
it's bad.
It's you got to keep pace.
Yeah.
So, but this was middle of the day. It wasn't really a packed course, and I hear like I'm like on the green. I'm walking off, and I'm on the next tee box, and there's a group behind me, and can't really make them out, but it looks like a group of brothers.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm like, okay, brothers on the course. So that you already get a sense like, all right, I'm good.
I'm good out here.
I'm good. So I'm getting ready to tee off, and then so one of their guys hits, and you're going through the natural order of people teeing off, and next person tees off, and then I hear a big roar. Oh, yeah. Right? And so I look back, right? Because that's the other thing, right? When you're on the course with your people, the hood, the community comes with you, right? Everything comes with you, right? So that makes it even more rewarding, right? And so I look back, and guys are like, so now like the carts are starting to come like down the fairway, and I can kind of see folks, and then one old guy hops out of the cart, and these dudes are just chirping, just talking that ish, right? And I'm loving it, And one of the guys had hit the ball like into the tree, so that was a big uproar.
Yeah.
And then there's this one guy that's just talking loud, just loud, right? And I look over and this old guy, and I'm like, that's Coach Chaney.
Dick Cheney? I'm not Dick Cheney.
John Chaney. It was Coach John Chaney out there with his boys, tearing up the course. And I was like, oh man, so they had caught up to me, and I said what's up, coach, and all that stuff, and it was just it was an amazing experience, but it also it was cool, but it was one of those moments of clarity, whereas you find yourself experiencing something that is so foreign to you, but brings you so much joy and comfort that you haven't had, and most people like you haven't had the experience to have. But there's a whole population of people where this is just the norm. Yeah. And so I was filled with joy at one time. But then I was enraged at the same point, because I'm like,
we should be out here.
Like,
we should be out here.
And so like since that point on, I was like lobbying like crazy to get my boys, like, you gotta get a bag. We gotta get out there. Yeah. I seen John Chaney, his mans was out there. We gotta get out here, blah, 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 blah. But, it's, people playing ball. Like, it's hard to get cats off the court.
And that's the hard
and they don't get
part.
It. And, and it costs money, too. And, like,
it's not a cheap game.
So I'm like, but that's the thing. So I would hear that. They were like, yo, it costs too much money. I'm like, yo, y'all spend all this money on these Jordans. This is a setup. This is a one-time fee. Boom, you get in, you gotta pay your lump of change on the beginning, no doubt. But the one thing that you do not want to have happen to you is somebody look at you and front you with the phrase, "You don't play golf, do you?"
Oh, that's the worst.
Because what I'm saying?
I got met with that. I
See what I'm saying? And you can't be mad if you be like, nah, I don't.
Yeah.
Right? So
because usually when I say I do, but I don't really there's a letdown in the face of like, I would have built with you, but I can't build with you.
And you miss, right? So
it's a missed opportunity.
Right. So one of the things that I try to do personally is look at things from the perspective of, I don't ever want to be in a position where someone is fronting me a proposition because they're assuming that I don't do that thing.
Oh, yeah, opportunity.
Right? I want to be in a position where, I know that, or oh yeah, I have a set of clubs, and be able to speak about that.
Correct.
And engage, because I need to be able to disarm them. Yeah. Because whatever you thought this was, it's not it. And now we can have a broader conversation. Now, this is the speakeasy. I got the password.
Or I can dance. I can dance. I'm good.
So that was my experience with golf that I'll never forget, as it pertains to that. So it's funny that you mentioned golf.
Yeah, I mean,
it's one of those things.
Because it's definitely, I know it's one of those things for me. Golf, snowboarding. I've tried to pick up chess a couple months back. I gotta go back. I had a bad experience trying to learn chess. But I'm gonna go back and try to relearn it, because I didn't get the full value of what I paid for. But once again, those are games that didn't have any access to. Yeah. And I would definitely know my environment wasn't very open to it. And the people that have introduced me to golf have been brothers. And snowboarding has been you and a couple other black people. Like, yo,
and I just got on the board. Yeah. I've been trying to,
but my whole thing is I'm not trying to fall in nobody's snow, fam. I'm not trying.
Yeah.
But I'm open to it. I'm open to it now, because I don't particularly care for the cold. But everybody tells me, like, yo.
But there's an underground, right? There's an underground community.
Correct. And
that you're not even aware of.
And that's why I've been like, all right, cool. I'm gonna shut up and just, because as you start looking at your network, you said, like, people start bringing you and offer you to go to places, just shut up and go. Yeah. Even if you're not experienced,
if you don't have a good reason to say no,
just shut up and go, and then let them take the lead, and you just figure out your footing.
And at this point, you just gotta be okay with sharing, folks. Like, hey, I never done this before. Just be inquisitive about
trying new things.
You know what I'm saying?
And I think that's stepping out of.
But that comes from, having the ability to grow in that environment, and if you don't get a chance to grow in that environment, it takes some serious internal fortitude to be able to push through the obstacles of an environment that isn't very accepting
or supportive.
stepping out of the box and
or
doing
supportive.
Yeah. So that's hard, and that stuff only comes with maturity, if you have the time and the space to mature over time, because without it, you'll never get there.
True.
And so it's like it's a commendable thing, especially for you, right? Because you, like you said, I'm sure there's a bunch of people that was just like, yo, like you can't be saying out loud, I want to play golf.
No.
Right? You know what I'm saying? So
I remember when I said a couple months ago I want to learn chess, people were looking at me like,
really?
Chess?
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't think chess was controversial anymore.
No, chess, golf.
That's crazy.
A bunch of stuff, and you just sitting there kind of going like, you know, even when I said I wanted to learn salsa, everybody was like, why you want to learn salsa for?
And now they all on it.
Now I was like, oh, what'd you learn? It's like,
right.
But I've learned, you know, at a certain age, like, yo, you just got to be able to go out and do you. And then there's always this funny thing that I've heard of, you'll find your tribe wherever you go. You know what I mean? Like, just get there. Get to wherever you think you need to go, and then you'll end up finding people that will embrace you. And that always happens.
Hence, follow your heart.
Yeah, 80-20 rule, fam.
Yeah, man. Speak on it. 80-20.
80-20 rule.
And that's, that there was a number, I was thinking about that, especially like when we're talking about creating habits.
Yep.
Right? And keep about doing and applying the right things.
Yep.
Self-improvement, even though it doesn't seem as if it's paying off, right? And also the 80-20 rule is, you know, it's got a variety of different applications, right? But I was thinking about that as we were talking about it, just saying like, yeah, I'm writing like all of these emails, and you know, only not even 20% of the time does it result in anything positive.
10% maybe.
Right. You know what I'm saying? And so obviously, it's a numbers game.
Everything's a numbers game.
Right. And so it's important for people to apply that, right? The 80-20 rule.
Break it down.
To keep it in mind.
Break it down.
Well, you actually put me on, like, because what's it called?
That's called the Pareto principle.
The Pareto principle.
That's the actual. Well, that's the genesis behind it. So it was I forgot that name, but he's from Italy. It was he did a study. It was basically like 20% of people own 80% of the land.
Yep. Yeah.
And that was the genesis of it. And like if you take that thought process, like the minority owns the majority. You know, right, when I learned that in businesses, 20% of your activities give you 80% of your 20% of your focused activities, the things that you really need to be doing, will produce 80% of the results that you need.
Okay, yeah, so that goes back to focus. Right?
And so that's how I learned it in the business sense. And then I also heard it from it in a relationship sense of you're gonna get 80% of what you need, and 20% you may not, you know, the stuff you don't want to deal with. So don't lose your 80 looking for the 20.
Right.
In a relationship form. So it's a principle that's used in different lanes and avenues depending on how you hear it, but it's the Pareto principle. Yeah. And I read that part in the book, but it was funny because you just randomly mentioned it to me.
Yeah, because I was reading a book and I was like, I was laughing. I'm like, yo, because I had heard my own 80-20 rule. I didn't know the name of it. I didn't know that there was a person affiliated with it that got credit for the name or the philosophy. And so I was asking you, you know, you heard of the 80-20 rule? What's your 80-20 rule, right? And it had a variety of different examples of it. Like one of them was, you know, you only wear 20% of the clothes that you have. 80% of the time. You know, all of that stuff. So, but I think that's important to remember as people are trying to achieve a goal, is that, you know, you're gonna have to be out there, like, only, you know, just grinding.
And focus on your 20, because the way that tied into the one thing rule was focus 20% of your day on the things that can be 80% of your. No, focus 80% of your day on the 20% that brings you the business, the most return. So your 20% is really what you need to focus on, because most people, the way that it was taught in the business sense was 80% is like your emails, following up with people, picking up the phone call, calling somebody back, blah, 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 blah. You know, the task, busy work. But the 20% was doing your marketing, making, going out and networking, making lead phone calls, making cold calls, door knocking, or, things that generate a business for you, that's the 20%. If you're able to spend 80% of your day doing 20% of the work, then you'll generate more business than you would had do it the opposite way.
Yeah.
And it's profound. It's a habit thing. Like, you gotta build the right habit of, okay, I'm gonna take 80% of my day and just do these 2 or 3 things and be okay with knowing that the results are gonna come in due time.
Right. You just gotta keep doing it. You gotta keep building that habit.
Yeah.
Little by little.
Sucks in a relationship. Yeah, sucks in a relationship form. I still haven't figured out the 80-20 yet in my relationship form yet. But it's like, I still gotta figure that one out.
Well, you said it though. You said it. You just like,
But yeah,
don't ignore the 80% looking for the 20%.
Well, you gotta find a good 80, and it seems like sometimes it's 30-70.
Well, you just gotta figure out. Well, then you haven't found it yet.
I haven't found it, so I'm saying that's why I said it's been hard to find the 80-20 in a relationship.
Or your math is off.
I think math
Either that or your calculator broke. Because I'm sure the ladies will probably be like, I had 85. He just can't count.
You know what? I would love to hear that, because I think I'd be like, I don't know. Man. I don't know. Let's count them chickens up a little bit. I think everybody should learn it and try to find a way to implement it in their lives, in their worlds, and figure out, what their 20% is, and go from there.
Yeah, it's actually a habit that you should actually practice the habit of reciting that things you're going to need to apply the 80-20 rule in anything that you do.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's too easy to get discouraged out here, because you shoot at it once, you shoot at it twice, you shoot at it 3 times, and all of a sudden you start thinking you're a loser.
Yeah.
Right?
A lot.
So it's important for people to get in the habit of just remembering that, look, you're going to have to shoot the ball 10 times to make it once when you first start playing the game. But then when you start building
your skills,
your relationships, then you'll start finding your cash cows.
Yeah, your efficiencies. Right? Yeah, you find what you're good at.
Yeah. Man. Cool, man. Well, shoot, man. Let's review what we talked about tonight, man.
What we got,
man. We
went through a lot.
We showed some. We gave Black History Month its proper respect and acknowledgement.
Yes, we did.
So happy Black History Month to everybody.
Yes.
We talked about habit stacking, social conditioning.
Yeah.
And we capped it off with the Pareto principle.
80-20.
Cool, man. Well, this does it for us tonight. This round.
Yep.
Right.
Another one down.
Man, so just tell the people where they can hit us up to let us know how they feel about the convo, the content,
and adding to the conversation.
Yeah, man, contributing to the conversation.
Find us on. Yeah, you can find us on On2 Podcast on IG and On2 Podcast at gmail.com.
All right. Well, love that y'all are hanging out with us.
Appreciate you.
Take it easy, everybody.